Good evening. This is Rudy Giuliani, and this is the Rudy Giuliani Show. Well, today, of course, there was quite a bit of activity, not in Washington, but between Saudi Arabia and Qatar. The president moved between the two. A great deal happened, and we're going to cover that in a moment. But as I told you yesterday, was the feast of Our Lady of Fatima. And I said that I would prepare for you just a little reminder of what Our Lady of Fatima was about, because it couldn't possibly be more relevant to today than the feast of Fatima. Now, there are two movies, several very, very good books, but there are two movies that are not exactly 100% accurate, dramatized a little. Some parts are condensed into one person, but they're accurate with regard to the monthly apparitions of the Virgin Mary to the three Portuguese children, shepherds. And they're accurate as to the miracle that was recognized by the church. They were a little euphemistic on the warnings, which I will make up for, because that's what it's all about. And that's what we all have to focus on today. So this is if I believe correctly, 1952 movie. And this is more or less the final scene of the movie. So just to set the background for it, what you should know is that on May 13th of 1917, these three very, very young Portuguese children, Lucia dos Santos and her cousin Francesco and Jacinta Marto, were out in the fields taking care of sheep. The family owned sheep, and that was part of the way they made their living. And all of a sudden, they saw a lady. They described it as a lady who appeared to them, and the lady asked them to come back every month, and it lasted until the final one, I think, was in October, on the 13th. And in the course of that period of time, she would impart to her what the mission that she had was. And this would be a mission that would take up all of her life. Now, this young girl was about 13 years old, and her two cousins were even younger. And over the course of that period of time, she imparted a number of secrets to her. The first one was about hell, and I'm not going to show that part of it, but both movies do a rendition of their showing hell as a punishment if the world doesn't, or if people individually don't turn to prayer and don't turn to stop offending God. And most of it had to do with the fact this was right in the middle of the First World War. During the second secret that she imparted to them, she talked to them about how the war was going to be over, and how future wars could be avoided or would happen, and it would have to do with whether the world turned to prayer and to praying, and the rosary was the recommended prayer that they should say. And then the third, which we're going to watch now, was the part that was imparted at the time you're going to hear, and that is that the war will be over. But again, they leave out some of the rest of the warnings that Our Lady gave. And then she also left behind, and it was put into writing by by Lucia, something that wasn't going to be open until the 1960s. Subsequently, it was, and we'll cover that as well. But let's watch the last apparition, because at the very beginning, of course, no one believed these children. They actually were even imprisoned, and they weren't, I wouldn't say they were tortured, but they were certainly questioned in a very, very hostile way. Remember, about 4 or 5 years earlier, Portugal became a socialist but communist country. And a good deal of the government of Portugal was a Marxist government. And a great deal of the advice that Mary imparted was about the danger of world communism, particularly as it existed in Russia, but it existed at that time also in Portugal. So let's watch this last apparition, in which Mary promised them the month earlier that she would give all the people who had been coming and watching, but only the 3 children could see the Blessed Mother, that she would give everyone a sign of the fact that she was a messenger from God. So here is that conclusion. This is the last of the apparitions that the 3 children have in Portugal back in 1917. So let's watch this. This is the 52 movie. There's also a later movie in 2000 that was done in Portuguese, but with an absolutely excellent English translation. I just thought this was maybe a little bit better on this subject.
Show us the sign!
We knew you'd come to us, dear lady. What do you want?
I want to tell you that the war is going to end soon, and the soldiers will return to their homes. Do not fear. In the end, God will triumph.
You said you'd tell us who you are.
I am the Lady of the Rosary.
Holy Mother, you promised to give us a miracle so the people will believe us. Look at the sun.
The sun! Look at the sun! The sun! It's falling!
It can't be. For I could see again. I could see. I could see.
Mother! That's a miracle!
A miracle! A miracle!
Only the fool saith, there is no God.
Where the people of Fatima in 1917 erected this simple arch, there now stands a magnificent basilica. And on October 13th, 1951, 1 million people from all over the world gathered here to do homage to Our Lady of Fatima. As night falls, 1 million candles send 1 million prayers to heaven. Inside the basilica, Francisco and Jacinta lie in their eternal sleep.
Well, the third secret that was revealed in part then, but then fully in 1960, contains a symbolic revelation of the future. And specifically, it concerned Russia and communism and the world's response to God's message. It foretells that if people heed the message and repent, Russia will be converted and peace will follow. However, if the message is ignored, Russia will spread its errors throughout the world, leading to wars, persecutions against the church, martyrdom of the good, and in particular, suffering of the Holy Father, with various nations being annihilated. Now, this became a matter of great concern when, on the anniversary of the first apparition in Fatima, in 1982, I believe it was, Pope John Paul II was almost assassinated. He was shot, seriously wounded, suffering of the Holy Father. And in the documents revealed was that the Holy Father would specifically be attacked. When you look at Russia and communism, and you listen to the message, if people didn't convert, and if Russia didn't convert, it and communism would spread its errors throughout the world. Hasn't it been doing that since then, or certainly since 1960, leading to wars, the Vietnam War, the Cold War, the wars that we have now, persecutions against the church. Christians are killed in communist countries. In China, both Christians and Muslims are periodically subjected to a persecution. If it isn't genocide, it's pretty close to it. Martyrdom, that's what it is. And various nations being annihilated, which has happened if you look at the map of Europe from then until now. She also left a letter. And now I'm talking about Lucia de los Santos. The two children died within 2 years of the last apparition of Fatima. Predicted in one of the apparitions, the Blessed Mother told them that the two children would be called to God very early, but that Maria would have a very long life. She did. She lived until, I think, 2010. And was interviewed, wrote her own book about this, which is excellent, really, maybe the best, and lived as a Carmelite nun. But she left a letter that she gave to a cardinal to keep, and this was a revelation. We don't know exactly when she had it, but she left it for our benefit. And if this isn't prophetic of where we are now, and something the new Holy Father should pay great attention to, I can't think of anything that would be more relevant. These are the words of Lucia. The two children have been canonized saints. She is still in the process of being. She's a blessed, and she's on the list to be canonized, largely because she died so late in life. It takes a process before they would recognize someone as a saint. This is from Lucia. The final battle between the Lord and the kingdom of Satan will be about marriage and the family. Don't be afraid, she added, because whoever works for the sanctity of marriage and the family will always be fought against and opposed in every way, because this is the decisive issue. Then she concluded, nevertheless, Our Lady has already crushed his head. Now, of course, it is one of the 2 or 3 items of greatest concern to Marxists and communists to destroy the nuclear family, which we've seen in the United States play itself out really dramatically in the last 10 years. What is Minneapolis all about? But a declaration that children of the property of the state, which was a Marxist and a Nazi tenet. If your 15-year-old boy or girl happens to get themselves to Minneapolis and convinces the doctors, who are all too anxious to do this because of the great deal of money they make for it, that their sex should be changed, their sex can be changed without consulting you, because you don't really know very much about it. The doctors would know much better about it in the state of Minnesota. There are 7 states like that now, where the child is the property of the state. Didn't the Democratic governor of Terry McAuliffe, the Democratic candidate for governor of Virginia, announce 3 years ago that parents really don't have much useful to say about the education of their children because they're not educators like the bureaucrats are? So we're fighting to the death to preserve the relationship between the mother, father, and the child. The Black Lives Matter, a current Marxist organization, has its number 2 goal, the destruction of the nuclear family, and the ultimate Marxist goal of getting control of the child at the earliest possible moment so the child can be brainwashed. And isn't that what happens with the Communist Teachers Union, founded by communists, founded by the very communists that Our Lady of Fatima warned us was trying to take away, trying to take away our civilization, our religion, our relationship with God, and our relationship with our parents. Somehow we should be reminded of those warnings. That this battle with China is a epic battle. It's a battle for the world. And that, there's no exaggeration in that. Those are the words of Xi Jinping, who says that by 2048, that China, or 2049 rather, China will dominate the world. Well, China is just an extension of Soviet communism. That's where they got it from. And it's the same communism that in 1917, the mother of our Lord Jesus Christ warned us about. So I would say, if the Pope wants something to dedicate his papacy to, wouldn't be a bad idea to follow in the footsteps of St. John Paul II. Make it communism, because it really is a battle for the survival of not only our civilization, but our ability to believe in God and our ability to bring up our children as we deem proper. So pray when you can. The answer, Mary makes very, very clear, is prayer. If we turn to prayer, we will have nothing to worry about. And we will convert Russia and China, ultimately. I'm going to take a short break after those weighty and very, very important thoughts, and then we'll come back and we'll take a look at the part of the world from which most of the religions that affect Western civilization emerged, in the Middle East.
The last time President Trump was in office, gold soared 50% and silver went up a huge 53%. Americans who invested in silver and gold during Donald Trump's first presidency are very happy that they did it. And right now, gold continues to soar to the highest numbers in history. These gains are just an appetizer for what's to come. Some market analysis are saying that gold is predicted to rise another 30% in the next year alone. So now's the time to invest in gold and silver, and that's why I partnered with Fisher Liberty Gold. Fisher Liberty Gold is a conservative-owned and operated precious metals investment company. They even helped my good friend President Trump get elected through their contributions to Turning Point USA and other conservative groups. I have dedicated my life to ensuring that people get the best sleep ever. And in addition to owning a MyPillow, I can now sleep well at night knowing that you can all protect your savings with precious metals with Fisher Liberty Gold. With Fisher Liberty Gold, you can sleep well knowing that your retirement is secure. And if you call now, you're going to receive your very own presidential gold guide and qualify for up to $20,000 in free silver. But wait, there's more. Call now or text metals to 26786 to receive your presidential gold guide from Fisher Liberty. And for a limited time, I will send you a free MyPillow for qualified accounts. This presidential gold guide from Fisher Liberty will tell you exactly why you need to own gold even while Donald Trump is president. And just by calling in, you get a free MyPillow for a limited time for qualified accounts and up to $20,000 in free silver. So don't wait. Call 1-888-4GOLD-19 or text metals to 26786 today. That's 1-888-4GOLD-19 or text metals to 26786 today to receive your free MyPillow and up to $20,000 in free silver. Whether it's being a weekend warrior or spending time with your family, feeling your best is the key to doing the things you love. That's why I'm excited to tell you about Nirvanta. It's a natural solution designed to help you stay active and live well naturally. It's perfect for your hands, feet, knees, back, or anywhere else that needs a little extra care. Simply massage Nirvanta in for at least 60 seconds, 2 to 3 times a day to get the best results. And if you're not completely satisfied, you get your money back. No questions asked. There's simply no risk and no reason not to try Nirvanta today. Right now, you get 15% off with code Lindell exclusively at nirvantahealth.com. So stop reaching out for that medicine cabinet and experience the difference. Go to nirvantahealth.com. Use code Lindell to get 15% off today. Nirvanta Health. Live well naturally.
Oh, this is Rudy Giuliani back with you with the Rudy Giuliani Show. Well, as we said, the president is spending this week, really most of the week, coming back on Thursday in the Middle East. Last night we covered and described to you his meeting, his arrival in Riyadh, which is the capital of Saudi Arabia. His meeting with the Crown Prince. Yesterday, maybe the biggest highlight was the announcement of an investment of $650 million in the United States. But as I told you, the president would be pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing, and it's now at the awesome sum of $1.2 trillion. When you add that to the other investments that have been made in the United States, it is quite an awesome amount of money. The president, during the course of this, has really gotten quite a bit in. He and Mohammed bin Salman had extensive conversations, and as you could see from the video of MBS driving him around, being his chauffeur, there's quite an affection between the two men, and there's a very legitimate affection between them, and which is very good because these are two very, very powerful nations. Saudi Arabia is a critical nation, not only because of its great, massive wealth and endless amount of oil, and but also because of its critical position in the Arab world. mean, the countries that he's going to visit now very much sort of bounce off Saudi Arabia. Qatar has always had, or at least recently has had, very, very tense relationships with Saudi Arabia, to the point where they were close to war a few years ago, certainly a blockade that went on for a year and a half, that involved all of the other Arab countries on the one hand, and Qatar by itself, largely objections over Qatar's, and it can be pronounced Qatar or Qatar, either way. I think Qatar is probably the more common pronunciation, so I'll use that. Qatar was seen to be too friendly with Iran, too accommodating to the Islamic extremists. I think Al Jazeera, which was started by the father of the present emir as a free speech network and not a polemic network that was basically a mouthpiece for Islamic extremism, turned into that, and it's funded by the government of Qatar. At the same time, Qatar has hosted the United States base of great significance, and has friendly relationships with the United States, as well as with Iran and with some extent China. So it's a very, very strange country. Yesterday, before he left Qatar, which he did, before he left Saudi Arabia, rather, which he did this morning, their time, he met with the president of the new president of Syria, Ahmad al-Shara. This was a very, very tense meeting because Ahmad al-Shara had overthrown, with the help of Israel, the critical help of Israel. He'd been trying to do it for years and couldn't. Assad in Syria, and sent him off to Russia. Now, this was a very, very important thing for both Israel and Saudi Arabia, because Assad had become really a very, very close ally, if not a proxy, for Iran, who, of course, is dedicated to the destruction of the state of Israel, would like to see the destruction of Saudi Arabia, or would like to capture it, as well as our destruction. However, this guy doesn't come without problems. He himself is a terrorist. He's been on a terrorist for quite some time. He's killed an awful lot of people. He did make an attempt a few years ago to leave the terrorist group and to say that he was going to pursue a peaceful course. A peaceful meaning he was going to try to overthrow Assad, but he wasn't going to engage in terrorism. As far as we can tell, well, I'm not sure I am competent to say to you, as far as we can tell, he stayed true to that course. I don't know if that's the case. When he did take over, the President Biden was inclined to lift the sanctions, and actually didn't. He came close several times, and President Trump came close several times. But he does have a history since he's been there of significant brutality with regard to the Alawite people and to the Christians. And he's done quite a bit of, his government, his people have done a lot of slaughtering of Christians. He claims it was just the aftermath of the wars, and he's not in control of it. But there are a lot of people who don't believe that. So the meeting was a controversial one. The president has agreed to lift the sanctions on them so that they can get a chance to develop a successful government in Syria that'll be an ally of the other governments. And I think the president would be looking toward some kind of an Abraham Accord with them, with Israel, which I don't. Syria has never made peace with Israel, as Jordan and Egypt did a long time ago, and the other ones did under the instigation of Trump a few years ago. Saudi Arabia is also yet to make peace, although Saudi Arabia probably really has the closest relationship with Israel. It's a strange thing, but it's a relationship they would both deny. But I can tell you from my own knowledge that they have a very, very strong relationship. The president urged MBS to finally make a step of making peace with Israel, and the obstacle is the calculation that the Saudi family makes of whether they can sustain it, whether they can sustain the reaction in the streets of Saudi Arabia, because there are Islamic extremist groups, less so now, but there are still Islamic extremist groups within Saudi Arabia that generally it was thought if Saudi Arabia went too far with regard to Israel, they would try to overthrow the crown, as they did in Egypt with both killing Sadat and overthrowing the government, right? So exactly how much of a threat that is today, it's not what it was 10 years ago, but it's not zero. And it's a heck of a calculation that has to be made. We certainly don't want that government overthrown. It's too much of an ally to us, meaning the present government of Saudi Arabia. We probably have about as close a relationship to them as we've had to Saudi Arabia, and Israel has a very, very important relationship with them. So this has to be handled very delicately. I do believe that sometime within, and I will say the next year, there's going to be a peace treaty between Saudi Arabia and Israel, assuming there are no hitches along the way. The conversation with the Syrian president, of course, it was necessary. I mean, it does happen sometimes that people grow from terrorism. I can think of some great Israeli leaders that, in order to obtain freedom for Israel, would have been regarded as terrorists who became great prime ministers. I don't know this guy well enough to tell you, is this just an Arafat who's going to turn from a terrorist into a thief and a scoundrel and a manipulator and a really thoroughly dishonest man? Or is he going to try to do something very positive with Syria and make it into a functioning, successful government, which it can be, given the neighbors that it has? And it also can be quite a bulwark against Iran, since it used to be a country Iran relied on. So the conversation was very short. I'm sure they didn't get into all of those things. What the president did was give him a chance to succeed, because the sanctions that we had on them were crushing. And I do hope he did impress on him that he not only has to be able to say, he not only should say to us, I have nothing to do with the killing of the Christians. These other crazy people are doing, go out and stop it, huh? And the Alawites too. I mean, there's the Alawites were the people who supported Assad. So you can understand in that part of the world why they would kill them. You can also understand how that just carries the battle on and on and on and on and on. And at some point, there've got to be Alawites who had no choice but to be with Assad, and there are groups there that want to reconcile. So maybe the president has made progress there. I'm hoping that would be the case. I can't tell you it is. I can't tell you it isn't, but it makes sense that it would be. And I know the Secretary of State, Rubio, is very concerned about the plight of the Christians there. So I'm sure that became a subject of conversations. After the president finished in Qatar, approaching about, I guess it was about noontime, their time, right? he left for Qatar. But let's see if we can pick up some of the meeting with the Syrian president. That would be number 6. Well, then if we can't do that, how about the president addressing the Gulf Co-op, which was the speech that he made first thing this morning before he left from Saudi Arabia. That's the one right after that subtopic B, right after he meeting with the Syrian president.
So we have a picture. Yep. So we have a picture of him with the Gulf Council leaders there. So that's him meeting with the. What you see there is a meeting with the Crown Prince, as well as Syria's new president. Of course, that occurred in Saudi Arabia before the president.
It occurred immediately before he made the speech before the Gulf Co-op. His speech in Saudi Arabia was to the Gulf Co-op.
That's right. And we'll have some video of that speech at 8 o'clock.
And that's a group, the group that was part of that. He then got into Air Force One and made what is a very, very short trip. Very, very short trip. I mean, I've been able to, on the border of Qatar, look right into Saudi Arabia. Even once thought of walking in just so I could say I was in Saudi Arabia. And I'll tell you a story later about the one time I tried to go to Saudi Arabia and how I got outfoxed. There's Air Force One traveling the very, very short distance from Saudi Arabia to Qatar.
Yeah, look at that fighter jet escort, though, right there.
Oh yeah, I think that's one sent from Qatar. I think, or I guess it's.
I think it's Qatar. Yeah.
I don't think it's one of ours.
No. Yeah, no.
Was it from our? I mean,
no. That's how he was received. That's how he was received. That's the ultimate sign of respect.
Was it the Qatar Air Force, or was it us? We have an Air Force base right in the north.
This is the plane that they're offering to the president here.
It looks strange, doesn't it? Has that bubble top?
Oh, it looks good. Needs the paint job, like I said. So it's not like.
But maybe because it's more sort of bubbly that it looks smaller than Air Force One.
Oh, I don't think it looks.
It looks higher, but not longer.
Okay. Yeah, it needs to be able to transport.
I bet it has a couple of decks, at least 2. It obviously has 2 decks, maybe 3. Rather unusual for a plane to have 3, but
enough room for all the flags that we got to bring.
Honestly, Air Force One has three levels, if you think about it.
Oh, what a jet! We're flying around the sky in that thing. Massive.
We're going to talk about that in a minute, but that's quite a that's become quite a controversial topic, hasn't it? That jet. There's nothing that our president does that isn't controversial because they attack him for everything. I mean, you can look at this one or two ways, but it is saving an awful lot of money. Part of what he's doing is getting investments in the United States. So suppose Qatar made an investment of $500 billion, and we use some of that to build a plane. Well, essentially, that's what happened. The plane is built by Americans. It's built by the revenue for that plane has already gone to the benefit of mostly the American people because it was built in America by Qatar. So I understand the sensitivity and probably would say not worth it. But on the other hand, I also understand the situation where not just the money, but the situation where Air Force One is a very old airplane. And of course, I don't think the Biden people did this on purpose, because if they had really been on top of it, Biden could have had the plane for the last year, a year and a half, but they couldn't get anything done on time. I mean, Obama couldn't get Obamacare out on time. They can't even get the things that are important to them out on time. That plane should have been ready for the second half of Biden's administration. It's now going to be ready someday. So the idea of this plane, well, I guess it makes some degree of sense, right? So on Wednesday, today, he arrived at King. It would be Hamad. He went from King Khalid International Airport to Hamad International Airport, and he arrived there at 12:30 p.m. local time. He was picked up, and do we have some B-roll and to show? We saw the plane being escorted, and Stephen says there are more horses. There are more horses in Qatar than in Saudi Arabia. They wanted to beat them on horses.
My homework tonight is going to be to get the exact numbers and see if potentially he gets a bigger response. You know, it's all about the one-upsmanship, and people pay attention.
I'm wondering why it's dark there. He, according to the schedule, he arrived there at noon, 12:30.
Was that our time?
Their time. Well, let me look.
Unless there's a massive
local time
eclipse going on or something.
Maybe
this is him arriving at the palace.
Yeah, this may have been tonight. This may have been when he went to the palace tonight for the state dinner, because he's having two meetings. He's having two meetings in Qatar. One is with both have taken place already, but the first one was right after he arrived. He went to the palace, the working quarters, and had about a 2.5-hour meeting with the emir and the government of Qatar. And then he went to the Ritz, I think it's the Ritz-Carlton Hotel, or the St. Regis Doha, the St. Regis Doha, and spent a little time freshening up, getting ready. And then there was a state dinner tonight.
Have you been to the St. Regis in Doha?
I've been to the I think I know every hotel in Doha, except the new ones.
Is it probably one of the finer?
In fact, I've done security for some of them. Not that one, but I've done security for some.
I bet those are some fine establishments over there.
It's a beautiful. Doha is a breathtaking vista, and it's become more sophisticated. Doha is a somewhat more business-like version of Dubai. Dubai looks, and you'll see it tomorrow. Dubai looks like a big Las Vegas, although not as. Please don't get upset in Las Vegas. A little classier, a lot classier, but it does have. I mean, a lot of people don't believe that there's not gambling there. It looks like a city that would have gambling. This Doha, which is the main city in Qatar, has a more business-like feeling to it, more than a party-like feeling to it.
Okay.
Dubai has a bit of a party-like feeling to it. Then if you go about 30 miles toward the water, you go to the Emirates, which is very conservative. And you'll see the people, more of the women in Dubai. And it roughly works this way. The most liberal of the three in terms of getting rid of the scarf and eating pretty much what you want, or letting you eat what you want. Now, they don't necessarily, they'll follow the Muslim, which is not terribly different than a kosher diet. And the drinking rules and everything else.
Halal is actually quite similar.
However, in Dubai, there is the most freedom. I mean, it's the most open. It's more of a party city, and it also is more open with regard to religious institutions. You'll see some churches, although not with big displays. There are some synagogues, but they're very small. And of the three, it's the one where you're going to feel the least amount of restriction. Qatar's somewhere in the middle. I regard Qatar as, like, in terms of modernization, on the very strict rules of ancient Muslim religion, as about 5 years behind Dubai.
But they recently hosted the World Cup, as you know,
Yeah.
and I think that kind of really
That's loosened
springboarded
them up, and they are looser than. Now we go to the Emirates. Emirates is very much similar to Saudi Arabia. It's very orthodox, and if you're a
But has that shifted in Saudi as well, though?
somewhat, but not. You're still not going to be. You're not going to go out and drink in Saudi Arabia.
Okay.
If you want to drink, you come over the border to Dubai, and they do in big numbers.
But MBS opened up the cinemas, women driving. It's become a lot more modern.
Women drive in Saudi Arabia, but you don't see a lot of them.
And you don't really want to be behind one or in front of one.
No. It's just if you travel to all four, and you were asked to list what seems the most like the West, you would say number 1, Dubai. Number 2, Doha. Number 3, Emirates. Number 4, Saudi Arabia. And then if you happen to go to Bahrain, they would be at the top in terms of the most like the U.S.
What about Kuwait?
I haven't been to Kuwait, so I don't know.
Well, we had a big partnership with them back in like the 90s.
Yes.
So from my understanding, I've never been as well, but Kuwait looked a lot like the U.S.
Kuwait is also similar to Doha. It's a more of a business-like atmosphere, from what I can tell, and so is Bahrain, as opposed to.
I've had friends whose parents and stuff would go over there for oil and things like that.
Yep. So Trump did take any number of occasions to try to convince MBS of a rapprochement with Israel, and maybe also some underground rapprochement, but he is extremely interested in them having recognized the Jewish state. He lifted the sanctions, as we said, on Syria. And the conversations with Qatar, I would think, had a lot to do with Hamas. Qatar does have some, the others that I mentioned are 100%, particularly now with Trump in office, pro-American. There's nothing about Dubai or the Emirates that's ever been anything but pro-American. There's nothing about Saudi Arabia except for their dalliance with China and their dalliance with Iran, because Biden was an enemy. I mean, Biden accused, basically convicted the leader of the country of murder. So Trump immediately has put those relationships back together again. Now there is a lot of discussion right now that there's a barrier between our relationship, barrier in the relationship with Israel, and that there are several divisions. It goes back to at least when it was leaked, and it shouldn't have been leaked, but which also gives you some sense that there's opposition within the administration about our very strong support of Israel. It was leaked that we had squelched the idea of Israel doing a massive attack. At that time, it was going to be like in a month or so, which would be about now, on Iran, taking out their nuclear facilities. That Trump wanted to attempt negotiations first to see what would happen. There also was then some gossip, leaking, whatever, about there being a rift between us, based on the, I guess, action that we took without them of making a deal with Yemen, where in fact we were sort of partners in dealing with Yemen. I mean, Israel was hitting Yemen a lot harder than we were pre-Trump, and doing a lot of our dirty work for us, because the Houthis were attacking our shipping. And somewhere, one of the lying communist newspapers said we've had some casualties, and we've had a lot of injuries inflicted on us by the Houthis, and our response has been less than adequate by Biden. under Trump, it's been relentless. It's been 30 straight days that had them saying, no mas, please, no more. And it looks like so far they're living up to the agreement of not hitting our ships or the ships in the Red Sea that would block the Suez Canal. But they have since then already done one attempted thwarted attack on Israel. And I think there's a certain sensitivity to the fact that we didn't include our ally in trying to achieve peace with them. So I would imagine there's some sensitivity to that. And then, the fact that he's not going to, I mean, he could almost walk from there to Israel. Not really, but he'd have to be able to not just be the Pope, he'd have to be Jesus to do that, have to walk on the water. But no reason has been put out that takes care of the curiosity as to why he hasn't gone to Israel. I don't know, but in any event, he will tomorrow be on his way to Doha, to Dubai, and I would say of the three trips, the one that is the trickiest is this one with Qatar, because Qatar does play both sides of the fence. And I know that from having worked for Qatar when it didn't, when the prior emir was there. Israel, meanwhile, has, they may be having disagreements with the United States and they may not, but they just go full steam ahead. So they have, in the last several days, they have been hitting Gaza really, really hard, and they're trying to take out the new leader of Hamas, who is the brother of the old leader, Sinwar. Remember Sinwar, who the Israelis dispatched about a year ago? Mohammed Sinwar is now the leader of, at least in the field. The real leaders actually are ensconced very, very safely in Qatar. And I may be off base here, and this is just a suggestion. I've wondered why we don't pressure Qatar to release the hostages. Qatar could exert enormous amounts of pressure on the Hamas. They are the only place that will give them refuge. If nobody wants them, and Qatar doesn't want the Palestinians, they'll take the billionaire leaders, but they're not taking. I think if the president had brought up with them, how about taking 100,000 Palestinians? The answer would have been, we'll get back to you later. But they do have the Palestinian billionaires and the ones who call the shots and who could very easily say, get rid of those, turn over those hostages. Could have done it any time. And I don't know why we don't exert that kind of pressure on Qatar. And that's what makes the airplane situation a little more complicated. Things with Qatar are not 100%. Maybe they're 70%. They're certainly 50. But when 50 or 60 or 70 and the other 50 or 30 or 20 is with a terrorist group, it gets you kind of nervous. And I wouldn't close my eyes in Qatar. I'd keep my eyes open. Israel has been hitting very, very hard. If you look over at the map, those red lines are there from the last time I had you look over on the map. And what it shows basically is how Yemen, which is down here, let me make sure I get this right here, which is down here, Yemen has had completely blocked the ability to get through the Suez Canal, which is up here. So that's the Red Sea, which is red with blood. That is now finished, but they are still coming up to Israel here and attacking in Israel. And we have not been able in the what we did there. So Israel's going to have to finish it. Haven't been able to finish the job of really eliminating their rocket launchers because they're mobile rocket launchers. The Israelis have gone back into Gaza yesterday and today in Khan Yunis, which is in the southern part of Gaza, in pursuit of Hamas leadership. As America sits back and waits, they're doing a very, very good job of eliminating Hamas. So we'll see how far it gets tomorrow when he goes to Dubai, where he should get a really exceptional. Maybe they'll have the most horses.
100 horses.
What?
100 horses.
At least.
I would hope.
Where are the camels? I rode a camel when I was there. I mean, I also ate a camel, but.
Well, that is. Next show. Find out in the next show.
Well, you come to the next show, and I'll tell you about some of my experiences on the Arabian Desert, which are very, very, very interesting. And we'll also take up who won, America or China, on the deal.
So tune in on X.
Tune in on X, 8 o'clock. Tomorrow night we'll be back 7 and 8. And please pray for all the countries that are under stress right now, and pray for wisdom for our president, because he's making so many history altering decisions that for things to work out, they're going to have to all be right. So God bless him, and God bless the United States of America.
The last time President Trump was in office, gold soared 50% and silver went up a huge 53%. Americans who invested in silver and gold during Donald Trump's first presidency are very happy that they did it. And right now, gold continues to soar to the highest numbers in history. These gains are just an appetizer for what's to come. Some market analysis are saying that gold is predicted to rise another 30% in the next year alone. So now's the time to invest in gold and silver, and that's why I partnered with Fisher Liberty Gold. Fisher Liberty Gold is a conservative-owned and operated precious metals investment company. They even helped my good friend President Trump get elected through their contributions to Turning Point USA and other conservative groups. I have dedicated my life to ensuring that people get the best sleep ever. And in addition to owning a MyPillow, I can now sleep well at night knowing that you can all protect your savings with precious metals with Fisher Liberty Gold. With Fisher Liberty Gold, you can sleep well knowing that your retirement is secure. And if you call now, you're going to receive your very own presidential gold guide and qualify for up to $20,000 in free silver. But wait, there's more. Call now or text metals to 26786 to receive your presidential gold guide from Fisher Liberty. And for a limited time, I will send you a free MyPillow for qualified accounts. This presidential gold guide from Fisher Liberty will tell you exactly why you need to own gold even while Donald Trump is president. And just by calling in, you get a free MyPillow for a limited time for qualified accounts, and up to $20,000 in free silver. So don't wait. Call 1-888-4GOLD-19 or text metals to 26786 today. That's 1-888-4GOLD-19 or text metals to 26786 today to receive your free MyPillow and up to $20,000 in free silver.